Hello! Welcome to TryDay Friday. My name is Lynn Leusch and I'm training manager with FSJ and the Spellbinders team, and I am so happy to be here with you all today. And I have a fun little technique I want to share with you. You know, our TryDay Friday is all about trying something new, switching it up a little bit, and doing some things that we may not have done before, or we want to try a little bit differently. So that's what I want to do today. And today I'm going to be working with you and sharing with you letterpressing. Now, you may have already worked with letterpressing before, and that's when you're using an embossing folder and you're adding ink to the embossing folder. But I wanted to kind of change it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I have here. So what I have here is my embossing folder, and this is our Bloom Wall embossing folder. And you know, it's kind of hard to see on the video right now, but when we go ahead and letterpress it, you're going to see it beautifully. So typically when you're letterpressing, at least the traditional way that I've learned it, is when you open it up, you're going to take your ink and you're going to ink up the area that is raised, and then that's going to showcase on your card when you run it through your die cut machine. Well, I wanted to try something a little bit differently. I wanted to kind of have my background embossed with the color and not my foreground. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead, open up my embossing folder, and I'm using our Beach Breeze ink, and I'm going to go ahead and ink up the flat side. And of course, you know, you just have to kind of feel, for the most part, the flat side is the front where the logo is. Open it up, and this is flat, and this is the raised side over here. So again, I want the flat side here. Now typically, if you were doing letterpressing on the raised side, I would probably pounce my ink because I don't want to put too much pressure to allow the ink to get further down than the raised area. But for this area, because it's flat, I can either pounce my ink across my embossing folder, or I can just swipe it. And because it's a flat surface, I kind of like being able to just swipe my ink pad all the way across. And I want to make sure I get it inked up really well. So I'm going to kind of take a look. And again, I can pounce here, but I like to just smooth it around, okay? Then I'm going to set this aside. And for my letterpressing today, I'm going to use a piece of whipped cream cardstock. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just lay it in my folder and close it up. Now, for time's sake right now, I'm not going to run it through my machine, but if I'm going to run it through my die machine, what's going to happen is I just want to follow the instructions that are on my particular die cutting machine. And typically when you're using an embossing folder, your sandwich is going to be a little bit different than traditional die cutting. So again, I would run it through my die cut machine, and then when I'm done, what's going to happen, I take it out, and I'm going to get something that looks beautifully done just like this. Isn't that pretty? Now, this again is our Bloom Wall embossing folder. And of course, depending on which embossing folder you're using, which colors you're using, you're going to get a completely different look. Now, I think this is really, really pretty by itself, but I wanted to kind of add a little bit of additional color to this for my particular project. So the raised area are the areas in white, and my background is the Beach Breeze. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over one of my favorite colors. Of course, I love all of our colors, but this is really one of my favorite, and this is Pineapple Smoothie. So what I'm going to do, because this is raised, I'm going to just go ahead and lightly, I'm not going to push down because I don't want the ink to get down into the areas there. So I'm just going to brush across, or in this case, I can pounce because I just want to add a little bit of color to my foreground. Okay, and you kind of just get a little look like that, and you can see how much that has kind of changed it up again, and so very pretty, right? All right, so in this particular piece that I've just created, I could very easily cut this down and use a portion of it in my project. But again, I wanted to switch it up. This is TryDay Friday, so I wanted to try something again, just a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a die cut, because I want to die cut a portion of this out. So I'm going to be using our journey squares. And for this particular project, I wanted to, again, add a little bit more pizzazz to it. So what I'm using is I'm using 2 of our squares. This is kind of the middle of the options here. And I taped them together using our electric line tape. And this is just great for die cutting and holding pieces down on your die cutting machine. So I taped them together, and what it's going to do is it's going to cut out a large piece here, and it's going to cut out a frame there. So then what I'm going to do is I eyeball it. Because I'm only going to use a portion of this item right here, I can eyeball it to see which area I want to expose and I want to cut out. So, you know, like I said, just eyeball it. Once I eyeball where I want it, I adhere it to my sheet, the die to my sheet, run it through my die cut machine, and then I'm going to have a piece that looks like this right here. I have several different pieces. I have my main piece that I'm going to be working with, and I have this fun little frame as well. Now, as crafters, we know that we could also do something with this as well, right? If we centered it up, and I'm sure there's something, and we'll set that aside for maybe another project, but I have these 2 pieces here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my card base to kind of start looking at how I want to build this together. And this is our Cool Pool cardstock, and this is my base. So I added it here. Now remember, I used Beach Breeze, right? And isn't that pretty how it just kind of goes together? My ink was Beach Breeze, and my cardstock is the Cool Pool there. So of course I have my frame here, and that's just not enough contrast, right? So then I said, well, let's try another piece of cardstock. So I tried white because of course I have the white background. So I cut another piece. I did basically the same thing. I ran that die cut piece through the machine, and I did it on whipped cream cardstock and created the same thing. And of course I've got these pieces I can use for a little later. But then I laid this here, and I thought, okay, well, it's getting closer. Again, TryDay Friday is all about trying something new, trying and seeing what you like and what maybe you don't like, and working with it. So that's kind of pretty, but it still wasn't really doing what I wanted. So I tried one more thing. I did that same piece. And what I did, and now you maybe not be able to see it. I don't know if we can get in close and see it. But what I did was I used our let's see, clear pigment ink. There it is right here. I used our clear pigment ink, and I used our clear embossing powder. And what I did was I laid it down on my piece, on my base here, and I used the clear pigment ink, and I just dabbed it all the way around, poured on my embossing powder right there. This is the clear, and so I made it a little bit clear, and I thought, okay, maybe that'll shiny it up a little bit. So I tried that, and you may not necessarily see the difference on camera. I don't know if we can get closer, but there is that little bit of sheen there, and that actually, I was liking that a little bit better. But guess what? It still wasn't what I wanted. So I tried one more color, and guess what? I'm going to be using one more different blue. And what I did was I looked at my options, and I decided to pull in the Turbo Teal. So I did the same thing again. I have these pieces here that I can use for later, and now I have this Turbo Teal piece right here, and this is actually closer to what I wanted to kick it up a notch just a little bit more. So what I did again is I took my clear pigment ink, just what I showed you on the whipped cream cardstock. I inked it up all the way up. I added our clear embossing powder, poured it on, and then heat set it. And let me show you my final piece. So very, very simple, but isn't that pretty? It just, you know, I love the fact that 3 different blues are being used here, and yet they all go so wonderfully together. Now, I added some of our journey sequins. These are our Blue Sky journey sequins. And for my sentiment, I used our our hippity hoppin' stamp set, and I used our little happy spring, used black licorice ink. And you know what? I didn't think that it needed to have any additional pop-up or anything, so I just inked it up and I just eyeballed and put it straight on there. So it's actually a very simple card, but it's so fun. And you know, it's so interesting to get all the different looks that you can receive from just changing up the color, changing up, you know, using not only the embossing folders, but the dies as well. So let me go ahead and share with you just one additional little way in regards to our embossing folders. Now this one right here is our fiddle leaf embossing folder. I used fresh sage, and just for your demonstration, your viewing, I inked up, I did 2 of them just so you could see the difference on what it's going to look like. I did one with inking up one side and one with the other side. And this right here is the one that I did with the background, which is the front of the die, and this right here is what it looks like if we ink up this other side. So totally different looks and so very pretty, right? Now, if you add this technique to it, wouldn't that be pretty? You know, just kind of, you're going to get a whole different look if you of course you don't have to use the square. You could use any of the shapes that you have available. And of course, these standalone are great background pieces as well. But I have one more I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to let you do some creating. So I decided to use some of these pieces right here. So this is our happy birthday embossing folder. Okay, so it just has happy birthday all around it, and it has some balloons. I decided to use some bubble gum, and guess what? I decided also to do something a little different. I used our Uplift die set. Those are our balloon dies, and it comes in a variety of different sizes. And remember, I wanted to create that frame. So to create the frame in the center, I used our circle around a die set. So the combination of these right here, let me show you what that looked like. Just like I did before, I did the larger piece and then a smaller circle in the center, and I cut them out. You can see right here. And then what I did for this particular one is I wanted to make sure that I got the right sentiment area that I wanted. So you just kind of have to play with it and see what you want in your final piece. I did one with whipped cream and the watermelon fusion. And I did one with whipped cream, again with my pineapple smoothie. And let me share with you, oh, let me also share that I used Best Day Ever stamp with the happy birthday, okay? So let me share with you my final piece right here that I just think is kind of cute. Just a real quick little project, but you can see the little birthday balloons right here. I created a little banner piece and stamped the little happy birthday, and I made a little tag out of I used our hole punch, punched it in there and threaded my little strings there. And you know what? We typically cut everything off to make sure it's, you know, even with our card. But I kind of left the little tags off there because I thought it gave it some additional dimension. So kind of fun. You can see this one because I worked with my dies. I have the happy birthday right there. I kind of got birthday happy there. And this one right here, just wanted a little bit of different balloon. I just used whipped cream with some of our Journey Glaze, and I also used Journey Sequins again, but this time the pink world. So that's it for today. That's our TryDay Friday, something a little bit different, maybe something that you've seen before. Maybe you've tried letterpress before. But again, I've used it traditionally, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. So I tried inking up a different side. I tried adding the additional dies as well, and I got a fun little project out of it. So I hope that you enjoyed our project for today. Now it's your turn to help bring paper to life. Thank you for coming and stopping by, everyone.